I remember not too long ago, I was at a security vendors conference and I was giving a keynote. And this vendor was Splunk. And I don't really want to talk too much about vendors in these videos, but I think it kind of gives you a good annotation of what SOAR is. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. So Splunk at the time were doing a lot of the SIEMs and they were running event information and event monitoring tool sets, and they were doing some great, amazing stuff. And then SOAR was coming into play. And at the time when I was giving that sort of that keynote conference, they were giving out T-shirts that said, "Don't be sore." See how SOAR was spelled? Don't be a sore loser. And this is one of the T-shirts that I've absolutely loved. I wear this all the time when I go into the office or when I'm at, certain meetings, and it just reminds me of the good times and the fun that we had with the team there at Splunk. So where am I going with this? Well, in this video, we're going to cover all things security, orchestration, automation, and response. And this is going to be all specifically around SOAR platforms. And as an introduction into SOAR, I'm not going to go into the weeds and obviously, too much detail. I want to keep this quite high level and give you sort of an understanding around what SOAR is, what's its use case, and obviously how it goes away and does these things. So think of SOAR as the manual. We've got some manual tasks, so like non-automated responses that we have to go do. And then we've got our automation. Right. And manual investigations kind of take, it's very manual. We've got to spend a lot of time to go in there, investigate, do some sort of administerial kind of changes. And obviously then it can cause bottlenecks with our incident response. If things are too slow, then that's going to be a problematic as well. So think of this in terms of if a company has maybe 30,000 assets they have to manage, they could be having maybe 50 to 100 incidents a day. Now, if you have to do that on a grand scale, that's where automation kind of really shines. And if we're dealing with organizations that have a lot of events or incidents a day, then we want to automate certain components to help us speed us up into doing effective incident response investigations, right? So think of this in terms of if you've got an endpoint and there's endpoint protection, again, it reports some sort of infection, we can go away and create automatic responses, things like maybe disabling maybe the network adapter, right? Isolating that host. Maybe it's something like creating firewall rules, or maybe it's putting information like creating a block list in our secure email gateway toolset that we're using, such as maybe our web filter or our web gateway. Right, we can create these tool sets or these actual steps for it to go away and do these things, right? So that's what SOAR is all about. Or what happens about maybe network devices. So if we have to maybe go into a router or a switch or a firewall, right? We can create maybe rule sets at each part of these phases based on our incident response, right? So if we've got to go into a switch, we have to maybe SSH in or physically connect in through that console port, log in, maybe look at the ports, do our, show our interfaces, make sure the interfaces are all running, go through that process. That could take time, right? So with automation, so if we do a bit of a time comparison based on obviously the activity and the per incident, obviously something may take longer than others, but if I've got to log into a router or into a switch and maybe lock out a specific switch port on that switch because there may be an infected host, well, that may take a few minutes. If I have to automate that, that could happen in a few seconds. So then I can go away and do my proper investigations. I can do my interviews with staff who are infected, and I can do more enhanced and efficient work around, taking care of that manual investigation and obviously those manual efforts. So we don't have to spend time doing trivial things or trivial tasks. We can go away and spend more time on more efficient activities. So that's where SOAR comes from. The SOAR platform is all about efficiency and managing those expectations as well. So, well, the next question I kind of have as we're discussing SOAR is, well, where does it get all this information from? Does it just pick it up in the environment? Is this an AI platform? Is it understanding our environment and how to do this on the fly? Well, not necessarily. And we go away and do this by a couple of things. And the first thing that always happens is we use our playbooks. Playbooks are the creme de la creme of our incident response world. It's our step-by-step process on how we're going to handle that per incident that occurs in our environment. Now, this is obviously per incident focus. So per incident meaning we define a certain incident like we did before, like we covered 3 areas. We did ransomware, we did our social engineering, like our phishing playbook that we looked at, and the last one there that we did was our data exfil. So when we do these and we break these down into actual step-by-step process on how we're going to respond and react, recover, do our lessons learned, in our step-by-step process, we define that. So we can then take that, and let's say that this is our phishing example. Well, then we'll take these steps and then we ingest that into our SOAR platform. And then that can help us with things like maybe going into our SEG. And then if a specific ransomware thing comes online or something comes up with a specific URL, well, then we can go away and automate that part of that process. Maybe it's a URL, maybe it's an IP address, maybe it's an attachment, and we specify maybe if it's a .exe or maybe it's a .x, whatever that file attachment may be, and they can automate part of that process. Now, again, the SOAR platform is not there to take over our job or take over our function. There's still going to be an element of physical requirements that we will need to go do and use our brains to investigate and assess the situation. And one of those things are interviews, right? It's not going to replace the SOAR platform is not going to go out and interview people, right? So we can go away, we can spend more of our times on key areas of focus rather than spending times on inefficient, trivial activities, right? So it's all about responding in a highly efficient and effective manner, and that's where SOAR comes in. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If there's anything else you'd like to see on SOAR, please let me know. Let me know in the comments of what you thought about this video, and as always, see you all in the next video.